All right, then. So welcome back. It's another edition to talk about another important part of the Nigerian history, and then we'll be talking about the federal election of 1964, 4 years after the Nigerian independence. By 1954, political competition had become very, very severe, and two major alliances of all the political parties contested the federal elections of the year. One of these was the Nigerian National Alliance (NNA), made up of the Northern People's Congress (NPC) and the Nigerian National Democratic Party (NNDP), and the West and the Midwest Democratic Front (MDF) and the Delta People's Congress (DPC). The other major alliance was the United Progressive Guard Alliance (UPGA), which was made up of the National Convention of Nigerian Citizens (NCNC) and the Action Group Party (AG), and the Nigerian, which was former Northern Elements Progressive Union (NEPU). Member parties of each of the alliances agreed to field joint candidates for the election. The elections were first set for October 1964, and the federal parliament was to be dissolved in late September of the same year. However, within the short period, the power relationship of the parties within the federal government was jolted. In a political maneuver, two members of the NNDP, Chief Ayo Rosiji and Chief A.M. Akinloye, were appointed to be ministers of the government of the Federation and members of the Council of Ministers, with effect from the 5th of September 1964. This news release was quite a shock to NCNC members in the federal government. Chief Ayo Rosiji was up till the 1962 just crisis of the Action Group Party. The federal secretary of the party, he was also the Federal Minister of Health in Alhaji Abubakar Tafawa Balewa's national government, which preceded the federal election of 1959. Chief Akinloye was also a member of the Action Group Party. He was the Western Regional Minister of Agriculture and Natural Resources until 1956. The appointment of the two men was in accordance with the decision of the NNA, Nigerian National Alliance, taken at its meeting in Kaduna on August 20, 1964. This political maneuver was suggested to be one of the strategies of the NNA for the then forthcoming political federal elections. It was thought that this act would annoy the NCNC, the other partner of the NPC-NCNC federal coalition government. Apart from the disappointment within NNDP, who had thought of benefiting from the appointment, the UPGA also seethed with anger over the appointment. On the 4th of October 1964, the Prime Minister and the four regional premiers met to discuss the conduct of the general elections to the Federal House of Representatives. They decided that the Prime Minister should summon a meeting of all the political parties in the country to discuss the appropriate arrangements for the elections. After a two-day meeting, the parties unequivocally agreed on the maintenance of law and order to ensure free and fair elections. The proposition that could guarantee fair elections were easier said than done. None of the parties adhered to the provisions. There was massive electoral fraud. Thuggery was rampant. The smaller parties complained of political obstruction by the parties or groups of parties which formed the regional government, and in some cases, political candidates were prevented from filing nominations paper, a tactic which had been used previously. The technicality involved here was that once an opponent was prevented from filing his papers of candidacy, the opposing candidate automatically won the seat in the constituency, a device which was employed to make sure that a particular candidate won his candidacy. UPGA gave a list of irregularities it claimed the NNA committed against its members and supporters. Some of these included arbitrary arrest, molestation, and brutal assault of UPGA member and supporters. There were still other alleged irregularities, and the chairman of the Federal Electoral Commission, Mr. E.E. Esau, was barraged by complaints from all parts of the nation. The chairman had to fly to Ibadan, Enugu, and Kaduna for on-the-spot checks and consultations. There were also other irregularities, and to prevent political opponents from campaigning in an area where a political party formed the government, that was a common means Nigerian political parties employed in the past. During the 1964 federal elections, this tactic was extravagantly employed. The situation all over the country was such that when federal parliament was dissolved for the elections, the president broadcast a strongly worded warning against what he described as blatant invasion of fundamental rights of citizens and deliberate violation of our constitution. He cautioned that should the politicians fail to heed this warning, then I will venture the prediction that the experience of the Democratic Republic of Congo, formerly known as Zaire, will be a child's play if it ever comes to our turn to play such a tragic